Shut up. Shut up. You're gonna get it wrong. Just shut up.
It's only 12 apostles could keep the life of 40 years. Absolutely impossible.
That is the dumbest fucking... That is stupid. Hello. We're having a discussion/debate on Christianity. I'll introduce the title in a bit, but before that, I'll have to introduce to you my good friend here, Keegan Pepper.
Hello.
Would you like to say something, a little bit about yourself?
A little bit about me. I guess I was brought up in a Christian household.
Uh-huh.
I've known Sid for about 6-7 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
And we've been talking about having a discussion like this for quite some time.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited that we've finally, in the last 2 weeks, we're like, we should do this.
Exactly.
And go a little bit more hard into looking into topics and debates. And this is where we've come to.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've always wanted to do this, so it's great. Anyway, introducing the title of the debate or the discussion, is Christianity the true religion? So, is Christianity the true religion? That will be the topic. Go ahead and tell us what Christianity is for you and what is it in general. I need to know.
Sure. I guess the fundamental of Christianity is that there's someone named Jesus Christ who died and resurrected. That's the main focus around Christianity.
Yeah.
With his death, we can reach God in heaven. So, there's a God who's created the universe. He's created us. He's created everything. He's given us life. He's got some targets, I guess you could argue, that we have to be perfect to reach heaven. If we fail short, which everyone has, if we sin, we can't go into heaven. So the solution to that is that God's given us Jesus being the Son of God. With his death, he's overcome the boundary of, I guess you could say, death. And so if we only believe in Jesus, we can go to heaven. Now, another way I think of this is God is a just and fair judge. So no matter what we do in our life, all the good and bad, he's going to judge it. But God said that we have to be perfect to reach heaven, which we can't be. So no matter what sin we commit, we aren't going to be perfect for God. However, Jesus Christ has paid the price for that sin. So in the olden days, in the Old Testament, you had to sacrifice something. Lots of other religions have done this.
Yep.
So to make amendments for your sin, you'll sacrifice a goat, or you sacrifice sheep, or sacrifice a bull, depending on what the sin was. And so in Christianity, especially in Judaism, in the Old Testament, the first several books of the Bible are mainly focused on what you had to sacrifice for what sin to make amendments with God. Now you get to the New Testament and it sort of flips it on its head, where now you don't have to do that because Jesus was the last sacrifice.
Yeah.
So he was, they call, the sacrificial lamb. So now he has died for our sins and pays the price for all the sins we've committed. Future, past, I guess past and future, so that we don't have to sacrifice anymore, firstly.
Yeah.
And because of that, it also means it's not based on our works we do. So lots of religions are focused around works get you into a paradise, or works get you into heaven. That's not what Christianity is about. So with Jesus, it doesn't matter what we do. If we follow and believe in him, that he died in 3 days, resurrected, that's the only way we need to do to get into heaven.
Right.
That's the core of it. So I guess some other key beliefs, I guess to sum that up, key concepts are that we believe in one God. We believe that Jesus was born of a virgin birth, that he died for our sins on the cross, that in 3 days' time he was resurrected, and that through faith in Jesus alone, we can be forgiven our sins and join God in heaven. I don't know if you want to talk more into God. We believe in a 3-person, 1-figure God. So it is only one God, but he's made up of 3 distinctive persons.
Yeah. I'm not going to focus on that
You're not
too
gonna
much.
focus on it?
I'm
That's
not
all
going
right.
to focus on the Trinity too much. There's a lot of things to talk about.
There is a lot of
but
things to
yeah,
talk
but yeah, no, I completely. I think I'd pretty much had the similar idea as well
Yeah.
about Christianity,
Yeah.
and my problem is obviously not what it says.
Yeah.
It's about whether it's truth. That's so. So that's what for me that's the thing that's stopping me from reading the Bible. Is I understand everything that you've said. That's what the Bible says as well.
Yep.
But for me, I need to know that it actually is accurate.
Cool.
Before I can read it. But we'll probably try to figure that out in this discussion.
Definitely.
And I definitely think that Christianity, really helps people live a better life, gives them a purpose. I've seen it. So many people are genuinely amazing people. Christians are, in general, are very nice people, absolutely. And I can see how it gives you a purpose to live. It makes you just enjoy the life you have. I see that hope in so many people, as opposed to atheists and people who are non-believers.
Right.
They that non-belief or not having that is it just makes them just be depressed all the time. So I can see that for me it would be great if there was a God.
Yeah.
And if there was a purpose. So that's why I've been trying to figure out the truth.
Because you're leaning towards more agnostic, that there is God or there is something out there that you don't know.
Yeah, I would say that because I have no idea if there is a God or not, right? So that's a different topic. We probably can get to that next because I would say it's separate to the topic of Christianity, because most religions say something about God, and God it doesn't have to be just this figure. It can be a supernatural force that we don't understand. So that's cool, and I think we can probably get into actually the existence of God first, and then go specifically into Christianity.
Sure.
Yeah. So if you talk about the existence of God,
yeah,
and then you come to a very important question of how the universe was created and how life was created on Earth, and every time there's this argument, it's always the same thing. Was it created randomly, or was it created, by someone, by intention, pretty much?
Like an intelligent designer.
Yeah, intelligent designer, that's the one. So, and obviously, people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, they believe that everything happened randomly.
Right.
Pretty much. Literally, that is our theory. And on the other side, the Christians are like, obviously, you can't say that. That's stupid. Like there's a very small chance for life to come to, like first even the universe being created, and then you get that Goldilocks zone to create that first life, and then from life evolution to human beings. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's funny, like the first, like when we discussed this initially, it wasn't brought up, and then our first sort of, I guess, you rang on the phone, we're like, oh cool, let's make some rules. And you brought up creation. And it's funny because I remember when I was little, even just randomly talking about it with kids at school, this was the first thing that if God could create the world, then Christianity was true. If he couldn't, then he was false. So what I found when I was younger, that was the sort of the first mark in the sand, that if this was true, everything else could be true. But as I got older, it seemed like creation was in the background more, that most people focused on other things like the resurrection of Jesus or the liability of the Bible. So my take on this is that it doesn't matter how the world was made, actually. That's my take on this. It's one of those things that the creation of the world, unfortunately, we can't do many experiments, if any, to actually prove it. It's all going to be theory-based and looking at evidence we have today. Which we can't guarantee proved anything in the past. I believe that there was a designer, but how that was made, I don't know fully. I trust that the Bible is inspiration of God. So when he says he created it in 6 days, I do think that, hey, that could definitely be plausible, and I do lean more to that side. But saying that, like in the Bible, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and that's ultimately what I believe in. And so, going through the days of the creation, he talks about creating light. Then he talks about creating the waters on heaven and earth, separating the waters from heaven and earth, so the sky and the land, creating dry land, and then vegetation, creating, I guess you could say, the cosmos, or lights appeared in the sky, so the sun and the moon, creating fish, sea life, land animals, and then humans. And then on the 7th day, the rest. So a 6-day creation with a 7th day rest. How he does that, I don't know. There's speculation whether the days are legitimate 24 hours, but there's also speculation all days could be infinitely long. Yep. There's no guarantee. Like, we're talking about a creation period where not even on the 4th day that you have the sun and the moon, which define a 24-hour period. So before that, what is a day? It could be 1,000 years. It could be 1,000 days, which in the Bible, there's a quote, I can't remember the passage, but it talks about 1,000 days for God could be a single day for him. Sorry, 1,000 days for us could be a single day for God.
No, that's fine. But do you want... so I can quickly go over what I think,
go ahead.
How the universe was created, and according to what I think is the most realistic explanation. So I think... I'm not too sure about the Big Bang, or what. I have no idea how the universe came from nothing. I don't claim that. A lot of people do, but I won't claim that. No way. I don't understand that. No idea how that happened. Till maybe we can maybe come to the Earth. I have a rough understanding of how the sun and the planets were created, just from helium and hydrogen gases that were there, and they over multiple billions of years they compacted and created. Fused into stars and stuff like that. So that's just a rudimentary understanding. We don't even have a full understanding of how it is. So, and this could, the best explanation is it is random for now. But then when you come to the Earth and when you talk about the Goldilocks zone for actual biological matter to be created, and this is a very strong argument by Christians, is that is a very small chance. How is it even possible that comes, you get that, it just happens, It's a very, very small chance that it has to be designed, And I'm saying that I did have a theory for it, and then recently I actually saw that there is a name for this theory, and people actually believe in it. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he actually believes in the same thing, which is the multiverse theory.
Right.
So if you have multiple universes, each trying out different random, permutation possibilities every second, at one point it's going to click, and we are the result of that lucky universe. For me, so far, I don't understand what happened before that, or I don't even understand why this multiverse theory is happening or whatever, but for me, that the reason we were created was because we were that lucky universe, and there might be other possibilities, or even imagine that the universe happened multiple times. It destroyed, it came back, destroyed, came back, and every time it was created again, there was no life. It was the first time it was created, there was no life. The second time it was created, there was no life. Third time it was, and then it got destroyed. Third time it was created, no life. Destroyed. Fourth time it was created, no life. And then it keeps going for a million different times. And then suddenly, one time, you get the right combination. We hit that lotto, and then boom, life is created. So if you think of it that way, it's actually not that implausible that you can create life.
Definitely, the multiverse theory would increase the chances.
Exactly.
Because you could argue, you could have infinite multiverses, and so the chances of it happening just increase rapidly. I would agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes a lot more sense to me. And in terms of life actually being created, so organic particles being created from inorganic stuff. I think there was an experiment done by Miller and Urey or something like that. I forget the exact names, but they tried to conduct an experiment where they tried, putting in the right compounds necessary to create life, and then they simulated the experiment, and they were able to create some organic compounds. Not all of them. They couldn't get some complex nucleotides or something like that, some building blocks of life. They couldn't get it, but they were able to produce some biological matter. Now, I need to fully look into that. I haven't fully looked into that experiment about seeing its validity and everything, but you could potentially look into it yourself. See, yeah.
I definitely would. Like, for you, what would you define as life?
Well, as soon as you get that single cell.
Just a single cell.
Yeah.
A living organism.
Yeah, living. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're talking about how was that first cell created?
Yeah.
So there's the two questions that science can't answer yet properly. So how was that first cell created?
Yeah.
And then how did that cell turn into something as complex as human beings?
And that's something that, like, especially that first part, how it creates that first cell. That's something that nothing's convinced me yet that you can't have something life appear out of nowhere.
No, absolutely, I understand that. But another good thing to think is if you don't have the best answer, you don't have to have an answer.
No, that is true. Yeah.
That is the way that I operate, right? So I've seen Christianity's answer for it, and I've seen science, like the best explanation they have.
Yeah.
Even if science doesn't have the best explanation for it, it doesn't mean that you have to believe in Christianity. Like, it might be that you have an answer that we don't understand, because we're human beings. We're a very small part of the universe.
Exactly.
We don't need to understand everything.
And you can argue that it's only been the last 150 years that people have really come up with these theories.
Exactly. So yeah, so that's why. But I still think that the science explanation is a little bit more probable for me. And in terms of single cell turning into multiple cells, I've seen arguments on that as well. You don't have any two-cellular organisms. You don't have any three-cellular organisms. So you don't see that transition. So how could you say that evolution happened? But apparently, that's not exactly. You don't need to have two or three. So what happens is you have multicellular colonies that can kind of fuse into a multicellular organism. I know it sounds.
Let's morph together.
Yeah, let's morph together. Exactly. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but But I think
I guess an argument for that could be, the 2 cells or 3 cells that just died off now, and that they
whatever we have. There's so many possibilities. Yeah.
I guess another thing going back to evolution is that, like, I believe in microevolution, and you can see that.
I know you Christians love microevolution. It's the only way you can explain a lot of things I'll talk about later. But
like, macroevolution is a different scale.
I know. Yeah. So. Initially, oh man, there's so many things that I thought, and it kind of, almost in the middle of this research thing, I almost turned to Christian, right? I was like, whoa, I've been lied to my whole life.
What was that about specifically?
It was about, I saw like a claim that was being made by this one guy that evolution is not true because there's like huge gaps in like fossil records or like stuff that we have, and we don't actually see the major transitions. You only see the minor transition. I'm like, holy shit, man! Are you kidding me right now? I've been lied to.
Well, I guess they still haven't found that some of those fossils, right? Like, for gaps, major gaps. Those are still,
I don't think they have.
They're still searching.
I don't think they have, but I still find it a better explanation. I think we get straight into Christianity now.
Oh.
The main topic. Okay. So I will first go through the what problems I have with stuff, the story that I know
Sure.
About Christianity and what it claims and all that.
Yeah.
And then the next part will be the case for Christ.
Okay.
That will be the main matter that I want to come to.
And I think that is the main matter that people like if
Absolutely,
they're worried
absolutely.
about
Because
whether
I've seen the
Christianity is
most
true, that's what you focus.
exactly
Yeah.
the most conversions I've seen from atheism to Christianity has been in that.
Gotcha.
Like I've seen so many people talking about it. Like they're like, oh, I go into Christianity wanting to disprove it, and now I'm a Christian. And I'm like, okay, how did that happen? And then it's all
Yeah.
in that case for Christ, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, my first problem is
Yeah, go ahead.
that it is only testimonies.
Yeah.
That is one of my first issues, and when you talk about and this is a big one for a lot of Christians I've seen arguing about it online, is you can't take it the same way. You can't you can't expect physical evidence. You can't test it with today's modern science and stuff like that. If it's a historical record, you have to go back and look at it in a different way. You have the historical proof is different.
Do you mean testimonies about people converting to Christianity?
No. Sorry, the accounts. I'm talking about the Bible was written. It's just accounts written by different people.
Yeah.
Different people. The whole book, right? So that is one of my biggest issues with it.
Why do you have an issue with it?
Because it can always be influenced or inaccurate or manipulated in different ways. Now, the thing is, if I learned a piece of evidence about, if I read something, an account from, the Vikings time, or even Romans or Sumerian or something like that, I read it and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Probably happened. I have no reason to doubt it.
Right.
But then you come in and you say, oh, man, now God is real. We have the Son of God. People are being resurrected and all of that. Oh, whoa. Calm down. I need a lot more proof here. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's not the same. So normally I don't even need to check. I don't even need to check if the Sumerian records are right. I don't even need to check if the Romans are right. Like, I see like their basic structures that were left behind. Is that still around? Roman structures?
Lots of them.
Lots of them,
aqueducts are all over Europe.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So.
Exactly. So you have physical evidences there, and then whatever they say, you're like, okay, no, it's Colosseum, of course, my bad.
Lots of
Why did they still have anything left? Yes, the biggest bloody wonder in Italy. Yes, in Rome. Sorry, but I see that, and I'm like, okay, yep, probably.
Yeah.
It was true. Now, when you only have accounts of something supernatural, I definitely have an issue with it, because then the accounts, the validity of it, I need to look into it very intensely. Like, how valid are these claims?
Yeah.
And we'll get into the specific things later on.
Yeah,
but
I can
my
understand
problem is, and this is the thing that people say, like, as soon as so people who have converted from atheism to Christianity, they always start with, you have to have an open mind. I have an open mind. Don't worry about that. But
you definitely do.
Exactly. So most atheists would reject the supernatural thing straight away. I'm like, no, okay, fine, I'll believe that. Even the flood. Actually, the whole time I was researching this, I wasn't worried about the supernatural things. I was only trying to find the validity of the evidence.
I would agree with you on that. Like, especially when it comes to supernatural stuff, you've only got Christian records, like the Bible. Yeah, that's the only records of that. There is. I will say though, there is a Jewish scholar. Who has said that Jesus did sorcery. So that you could argue, there definitely could be another historical figure that has mentioned Jesus doing sorcery, who has talked to eyewitness accounts. So both of these people mentioning that Jesus has done sorcery, which in especially ancient culture was thought about being from a bad side or a bad spirit. You could argue that, they've mentioned Jesus has done sorcery, so he's done some type of miracles. They haven't specifically said what, but they've said that he's done sorcery. So that would be one historical evidence that Jesus has done something that people have thought magical or something like that. I'm trying to think of the word.
Yeah, I understand that. I'll get into what's the specific ones in
Go
a
ahead.
bit, but in a bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's my problem with Christianity is not over yet. The second problem,
Yeah.
main problem. If you can explain this well, I think it can work out well. So for me, a very big problem, assuming everything happened, Adam and Eve, Noah, everything. The timeline for the diversity of people that were created
Yeah.
is just a big problem for me. It's too short. So initially I thought Adam and Eve were white, and then they lived for a couple of years, couple of generations, and then the flood happened, and then obviously Noah and only his family lived.
Yep.
So it's pretty much essentially being reset there, and that's the bottleneck. So you can look at it from there, right?
Yes.
So now you have Noah and his family only, right? And I thought they were white at first because I watched that movie, Noah. It's bloody Russell Crowe, bro. Australian.
That's a terrible movie.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. No,
I thought it was white, and one of my biggest questions was, how the hell do you have black people? Because obviously, if you were white, that would be like the opposite, pretty much. I would have thought.
Yeah, definitely.
I did more research, and I do have an argument for that, like the counter argument that Christians do. But if you have a counter argument for that, it would be great.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And actually, before that, let's establish how many years before that was. So, how many years before Jesus do you think the flood happened?
Arguably around 4,000.
4,000. Okay.
3 to 4,000.
Okay.
It is harder to, like, even going through the Bible, it's harder to predict exactly because of when the births of people were.
Yeah.
You've got the genealogy.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the genealogy.
So with that, you can work out. I can't remember if it's 3.5 BC or 4.
3,500. You mean?
Sorry. Yeah. 3,500. But it'd put you in the ballpark of that roughly.
Yeah.
I think this Bible's got a timeline in it actually. But like I even did that at year 9 at high school.
Yeah.
Me and this other person, girl in my class, we were Christians, and people were debating us. So we calculated when Noah's Ark was, when roughly the creation would be, and it would have taken us into the 3,000 BC to 4,000 BC mark.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I have as well. Because that part is a little bit rough because they do calculate it with the genealogy. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the only way from, you could argue biblical side, that's the only way you can argue it.
Yeah.
There's no other way you could.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this one says Noah's Ark was undated. But then it talks about Abraham being born in 2166 BC. So very specific there.
Right.
But it does mention creation undated and Noah's Ark undated.
Yeah, so what answer do you have? So if it's 3,000 years before Jesus, and you know the diversity that was there at the Roman time, how do you explain Noah's family to that?
Sure. It is possible for very rare cases, but it is possible for people to give birth to someone with different skin pigment. So there was been multiple cases of twins even, which I don't know if you've read, but there's been multiple cases of twins with their parents being mixed race, twins being born, and they're completely non-identical. So you've got one looking more Irish or Scottish, very fair skin, red hair, and her twin sister being more African dark pigment skin with frizzy hair.
I've seen exactly the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's I guess the biggest argument for that. There's also the Tower of Babel, which is another argument where because people, the story goes that they're building a tower to reach God. He didn't like that, and so made them all speak different languages. So the argument is there because of that. They gone to groups with people with the same language and then dispersed throughout there. Those people could have been the different ethnicities. good question though about like how could 8 people from Noah's Ark have a wide range, and yeah, I don't know honestly.
Okay.
Like you could argue their genes had less mutations, so you could argue that because of that, any mutation to their genes would be very dramatic and cause. So their offspring, when they give birth, their offspring would have more mutations, and it's more dramatic, and so would create the races as such. That is another argument as well, is that the mutations would be more dramatic and create a person that looks completely different. Yeah.
Now, that's pretty close to what I have anyway. The counter argument. Anyway, I saw the best explanation I saw was by Calvin Smith. I'll put that video up. No, not for you. Obviously.
No.
For those dudes.
And the description.
For those dudes. So, very interesting. It almost was like, oh, that's a pretty good explanation, bro. But, it's... So... Let's just say that Noah's family was white. Okay, so this is before. This is before. This is before.
They were white. I would argue that they're not white.
No. Yeah, I know, and they're not. They're not.
But
So,
go ahead. Sure,
they're not. They're definitely not. And so if they were white, there is no way you're getting that kind of diversity in 3,000 years. No way. Okay, so that's what I initially thought, right? And then I saw this video on Calvin Smith, and it's this whole. Capital A, small a, capital B, small b theory. So that's
Gotcha.
in terms of genetic diversity.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're talking about, then you go all the way to Adam and Eve, right? So you have both of them are like mid-brown kind of looking.
And that's what I would think.
Yeah, that's fine. But then you reset it back to Noah's time.
Yeah.
Right. And now you can think maybe Noah's family was like different shades of brown. Maybe one of them even had like, more Asian eyes. Something like that. Even one of the kids. Don't know. But so let's just think that they're most genetically diverse they can be at that point, right?
Yeah.
So, and then they kept, growing, and then you go to Shinar, and and then they built the Tower of Babel and everything. And at this point, they're all still speaking the same language.
They are at this point.
There's no different languages yet. They're all speaking the same language. Yeah. So you're not going to group them into different languages. So it's going to be a random grouping. So imagine at that point, everyone's like, okay, fine, you go into different groups. So it's going to be, all these 4 groups are roughly going to be the same looking.
Sure.
Yeah. So they're not going to have any extreme characteristics, not going to be fully white. They're not going to be fully black. They're going to be different shades of brown, maybe a little bit, characteristics here and there. So they all split up, and this is Tower of Babel was approximately 2,500 years.
Yeah.
So not all the way back to Noah's time, 2,500 years, and that's very similar to the time we have from Roman times to today.
It is.
Yeah. So, and if we look at the difference we've had from Roman times to now.
Yeah.
What would you say has been... So one of the biggest things is... So the genetic diversity, I'll explain, is... So when you talk about that range, I love it. The Christians love showing me this. Is you have a black guy, black dad, and you have a white mom, and then it's like the kid's like a range of color. Yes, I understand that. But that only happens when you're within the range. Going outside of the range requires natural selection and genetic diversity. Genetic drift.
Sure.
Only inside, and you have, I'm not saying it's impossible, you can go. There are only rare occurrences you go outside the range. So if you have like a brown father and like a white mother, you can't, you can't, but it's very unlikely that the kid will be darker shade than the dad.
I agree with that.
So when you look at that, so most of what should have happened is still genetic drift and natural selection. You can't have just randomly rare people pop off from the group, and they would have been killed as well, because if they are that different,
Yeah, well, sure.
So if you're looking at a realistic scenario, so you're looking at a largely brown group going to, to the colder climates, and then you have a largely another brown group going to, African climates. 2,500 years only. So you need to change. You need to change skin color. You need to change bone structure, body type. You need to change a lot of things. So another things that Christians only focus on is eye shape and skin color.
Yeah.
Those are not hard to change. Though those are, melanin and those are. But you're talking about bone structure and body shape.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit more time, right? According to normal evolution, and you guys, you don't even like evolution, first of all, and you're saying that such a big change happened in such a small time.
Well, that's actually interesting you brought that up, because like when they go back to Darwin, you're right with evolution. Like they think about it being a massive process, but recent studies from what I've read, it's actually 3 times faster than what Darwin thought it was.
Yeah. Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm more. I'm not taking the time scale of Darwin necessarily. I'm more taking the time scale because I really like the time scale from Roman time to today.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And when you put it in that perspective, it's like, like, what are the crazy characteristics?
Yeah.
Especially when we've got a modern culture where lots of cultures are living together, like in New Zealand, a multi-diverse culture, America, multi-diverse culture.
Exactly.
Where's this change? I guess you could argue
there's not a huge change at the moment. So
No.
when you have back if you talk about what happened in the Roman era, so you have very distinct groups of people around the world. You got Chinese, you got Indians, you got black people, and we know this because literally Romans had black slaves at the time.
Yes.
And you had like Europeans and stuff like that. So you already have very distinct characteristics already, and they were all living in the separate countries. And to this day, even though they were in the same conditions, I tried to look for an example where a black lineage were taken to a colder climate in 2,000 years ago, and then see how much it changed. But I couldn't really find anything, because even back in Roman times, I don't think, unfortunately, the black people would have survived. I don't know. I don't know. So if there was an account of a black family been taken to Rome, and then they survived the cold all the way to to the modern era today without mingling with white people or breeding with white people, that would very conclusively prove that you don't change traits that quickly. Really, you can't. And I'm willing to bet that, I mean, this is something that I stumbled upon very recently. So if I probably do a little bit more research into this, I can probably get more definite proof. But 2,500 years ago, even if you have a brown population, it's very unlikely that they would have converted that much into very distinct, specific races across the world.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
That's a good point you make. I guess we've seen the average height of people increase over the years.
Yeah.
So you could argue that that's a characteristic. I guess one thing you could argue also is the amount of births happening over there were a lot more than today. So back then, they would have had a lot more births because age, they probably wouldn't have lived that long. A little bit of an assumption, to be fair. But so you could argue maybe because there's more chance of these diversity happening because of the amount of births happening. Obviously, people are dying off, so you could counter argue that it could easily kill out those diversities.
Yeah.
That'd be the argument I'd make to that. But that's a good point. No, it's a good point, especially when you put it into perspective of going back to Roman to now. What's the change from then to now?
Exactly. And another big thing is, it's very hard for me to believe that people who were originated in the same space have the genetic diversity to create like white and black, for example, because there was no need for it. So when you talk about genetic drift and natural selection,
Sure.
creating that white and black people, that's
Yep.
because they came into different climates that forced them to go through that change.
Right.
You know, so why would you even have that genetic material before that? Because you didn't even have need for it. You could say that God, you know, thought of it. You know, he expected that to happen, so he gave Adam and Eve all the genetic material ever needed. But then you're kind of reducing it too much at that point. You're trying to fit it too much into that. You're giving Adam and Eve too much credit. Pretty much what I'm saying.
Yeah, like that'd be the only other argument is that God designed it that way and that when people branched off, that He distinctively helped them.
Yeah, God hasn't been helping people that much, man. You can't give him credit for that. He's not been helping everyone change colors. Get out of here. He only comes sometimes and helps people. Go on. You've proven that in your Bible. He doesn't always help people.
Oh. No, I'd say he would.
Yeah. Well, there's about how many million Jews that would like to disagree with that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, actually, we don't need to go into that. That was literally a comment made by one of my friends recently, and I'm like, I'm not gonna go into that whole argument of if God was real, why does He let evil exist or whatever?
Sure, you don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
That's okay.
Because it's God's reason. It's silly to argue over God's rationality or what His reasons are. I have no idea. I don't know, and you guys can maybe say you know, but you probably can't fully explain it either.
No, we can't fully explain.
Exactly.
There's a whole book, Job.
Exactly.
Job. That explains that we can't answer it.
Exactly.
There's so many questions.
And that is exactly, so there's no point, even arguing that because, both sides are going to be like, we don't know.
I guess one thing that I would argue on the subject is that it's hard for us to fathom a creator to this world.
Yeah.
When He's created time, space, and matter.
Yeah.
We can't imagine a world without time, space, or matter.
Yeah.
We can't imagine even the beginning of, the Big Bang. We can't imagine what's before that. So when you think about God, He's outside of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot more understanding of, the problem of evil that we just can't comprehend.
Yeah.
That'd be another thing I'd say on that.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, that's why as soon as I saw that argument, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not strong enough. It's going to be because like I said, there's an easy answer for that. Exactly what you said, right? We can't comprehend, and I understand that too. So
I think it's definitely a topic that gets shut down a lot quicker than other topics because it gets to a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It does get to a very quick. So yeah, that was pretty much my two main, holes that I wanted to poke into Christianity is,
So only those two?
Only those two main ones, because everything else, for me, those two paint a really good picture of how there can be, because those are two things that Christianity can't explain too well. Everything else you guys can. I mean, maybe I haven't looked at everything, but...
So that was the testimony, or the
testimony,
the reliability of the Bible?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
The fact that it's only accounts calls into question the reliability of the Bible. So that is one of the holes. And the second one was the timeline for the genetic diversity.
Gotcha. Is
not enough. All right. So, we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, we get to the main part of the topic, which is the case for Jesus Christ. All right. So, this one was very interesting, and this is the, like I said, this is the part that really convinces a lot of atheists. So, many of the ones that I've seen online, that they've been talking about their stories about how they converted from atheism to Christianity, and they've mostly been converted because they've read the case for Christ and pretty much see all the really strong points that point towards the fact that Jesus Christ actually lived, died, and was resurrected. So I've got a couple of points here. So the first one is prophecies from the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And I think this one is very strong. So the fulfillment of the prophecies of the Old Testament, I would rather be specific. So you have all these prophecies, I think quite a few. I can't remember the exact number.
It's around, there's a lot, but
40 or
there's around
something.
300 that have been fulfilled by Jesus.
300, okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot more than, there's a lot.
There's over 300.
Yeah. So yeah, that the fulfillment of the prophecies from the Old Testament is very strong. And then the second point I had was the comparison of how much Jesus was talked to compared to the emperor of Rome at the time. I think it was Tiberius.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And it was just like, why would someone talk about someone who's not the emperor of Rome? You know, it's a lot more than the emperor of Rome. There's like so many records of Jesus's life, and there's only like 10 records of Tiberius. Like, who the hell was this guy? You know, he must have been someone important.
Gotcha.
So that gives a good what do you call it, proof of that Jesus actually lived, Jesus of Nazareth lived, and he actually, you know, was someone special. And then obviously there's the eyewitness accounts of the resurrection itself. Multiple. And then you have the fact that, you know, followers of Jesus spread Christianity even though they faced harsh persecution in that time. Why would they lie? Why would they lie for something they believe to be false? Or why would they go to that lengths to something they believe to be false?
Yeah, I'd agree.
And then the final one, which is the nail in the coffin for me, is Saul of Tarsus' conversion to Paul. And that is very much, many people also say the same thing, is it single-handedly proves the case for Christ, is the enemy of Christ becoming a very strong follower, even leader of the early Christian community, which I thought was very interesting. But anyway, those are the points that I saw that were very strong. And I won't lie to you, I tried to break it apart in every angle I could. I was like, come on, there's gotta be a way. There's gotta be a way I can find something, some inconsistency, something wrong somewhere. Like, this is too much. I can't. Obviously, all these can lead to either Jesus actually having, you know, resurrected.
Yeah.
Or it could also mean that, you know, there's two possibilities. Either it actually happened or it was manipulated, or, you know. And the manipulation one, it seems a lot less likely. Very, very small possibility compared to, you know, Jesus actually being resurrected when you look at all this evidence. And I can see why anyone would look at that and be like, of course, man, Jesus Christ lived. Holy shit, that makes a lot of sense. But I did come up with a decent theory.
Yeah, sure.
I would think we won't get into that first.
Okay.
I'll come to that later. But anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think all of those are valid and good points. Some people talk about the, I guess,
or if any points that I've missed or anything as well. So I don't consider the 6,000 manuscripts one as strong because I believe if the story was to be manipulated, it would have happened before it even became 6,000 manuscripts. Everyone keeps saying the same thing. If, you know, what if someone, you know, changed the documents and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But I would say that the lie would have happened, the manipulation could have happened a lot at the source.
Right.
Why would you have to wait until 6,000 copies were made before you actually change all of them?
And that's fair. Yeah. Like now we've got over 24,000 copies of the New Testament itself. Yeah. And so one argument is that I find this, I think this is one of the, it should be another point. That's a strong case. Yeah. So I guess you've got several points on this. Like you've got one was Jesus a real person?
Yeah.
And you got two is the Bible reliable? How reliable the Bible is?
Yeah.
So if we start with Jesus, we've got the Bible's accounts of him being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got about 11 other non-Christian historians or at least documents talking about Jesus. You've got Romans, Greeks, and Jewish talking about Jesus in different ways. So you've got a couple of Romans, one sending message to an emperor, talking about asking him how to deal with Christians. He's more or less saying, hey, we've got a group, what do I do with these Christians? I don't know how to treat them. And he mentions that they follow someone that they consider divine. And he just thinks it's wild, like that they consider a person divine on earth. And he mentions that they worship him just like they would any other god, a Greek or Roman god. He mentions that they get together weekly to break bread, and that they're completely different to how Jewish treat others. That he mentions their hospitality. So do you think Jesus was a real person?
I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think there's definitely enough evidence to show that he was a real person. Yeah.
Like then you've got the Jewish guy talking about, there was a great teacher who committed sorceries. So there's all these different people that talk about Jesus. So with that, I think that sort of proves that he was a real person, at least.
Yeah. Definitely. We always talk about, did Jesus really live? Yes, I'm pretty sure. Actually, we can look at it in different points. So first one, did Jesus really live? Right? Was he actually a person who existed? And I think everything you've said, there's quite a few records and about Jesus and in the emperor's time and stuff like that. There's a lot of people talking about Jesus, absolutely, and he did that, he did this, absolutely. I understand that, so I can definitely, very, very, I can believe that he definitely, Jesus of Nazareth, was a man who lived there at that time. Yes.
Yeah. Talking about the resurrection, you've got...
First you got to talk about his death. There was one prophecy that specifically said how he would die and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was. And Elijah talks about that he will be crucified.
Crucified, yeah, exactly. Or nailed or something like that. Which was very interesting.
Definitely. And actually, to be honest, I didn't know that until recently as well, that crucifixion one. And so researching crucifixion, you learn that it came around the Babylonian period, which was 400 years before the Romans.
And they literally make a case saying that yes, Jesus definitely died, because some people even deny that. And I'm like, okay, no, it's a little bit unlikely that he would not have died from that. I think it's about time to tell you what my theory is, and then we take it that way, right?
Okay.
So before that, initially my theory was that. The whole thing was like a conspiracy, like a hoax, the resurrection thing.
Right.
But it's obviously done by the disciples and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then I saw a very interesting video. This is where the video comes in. Oh, I love this video. It's so good.
Are we all here? I need 100% participation for this to work.
Yeah, everyone's here. All 12. 11. 11 of us. What's the plan?
Well, as you know, Jesus is dead. But stick with me, okay? Stick with me. I have a plan. We are going to steal his body.
Okay, I'm tracking with you. What's next?
And then we're going to tell the whole world that he rose from the dead.
Oh, you know I'm in.
I love it already.
All right, classic. Then what?
And then we're all going to get brutally murdered.
Wait. Come again. Could you go over that last part real quick?
Oh, what? We get murdered. What's the problem?
I like it. I like it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Pete. I love me a good hoax as much as the next guy, right? What's in it for us? Do we all get riches, fame, and fortune first, right?
No, get this. You're going to be hated, persecuted, and reviled for the rest of your life.
Okay, guys. Okay, fellas. Look, I gotta be missing something here, right? Okay. I mean,
I think this is great.
why on earth would we do this? Can we start over?
Oh, okay, we'll start from the beginning. Everybody for John,
Yeah.
the beloved disciple.
So, okay. We go down to Jesus' tomb.
Sounds good.
This is really easy.
Then we pay off the Roman soldiers that are guarding the tomb with their lives.
Why would they do that?
Then we somehow roll away the big stone that's in front of the tomb.
Obviously, you have to move the rock first. Duh.
And then we steal his body.
Yeah, I guess.
Then we tell the whole world that he rose from the dead. And we get brutally murdered for our troubles!
Epic prank, bro.
Peter, you rock!
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you brought that up. I want to say a quote. I want to say a quote.
This shit.
So
It's funny because
I like that.
I didn't even get mad at that. I was just finding it funny. It was fantastic.
I like that. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I just need to find this. Where is it? Okay, so this is by it's by a guy named Charles Colson. I can't remember exactly what his role was with the US government.
Yeah.
But he actually went to prison, and that was for Watergate scandal. This is what he said. I know the resurrection is a fact. The Watergate proved it to me. How? Because 12 men testified they had seen Jesus raised from the dead. Then they proclaimed that truth for 40 years, never once denying it. Everyone was beaten, tortured, stoned, and put into prison. They would not have endured that if it weren't true. Watergate embroiled 12, ironically, of the most powerful men in the world, and they couldn't keep alive for 3 weeks. You're telling me 12 apostles could keep alive for 40 years? Absolutely impossible.
I want to know what lie that was, though.
The Watergate scandal?
Yeah.
Oh, snap. Dude, that was a big thing. I can't remember it fully from memory, and I don't want to do it. But pretty much...
Because my theory does address this specific point very strongly.
Gotcha. Yep, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yep. So first there was a break-in. 5 men were arrested during a break-in into the headquarters. They found to be connected to the Nixon case. There was an initial cover-up of Nixon's involvement. This included paying the burglars hush money and trying to obscure FBI investigation.
Right.
It was revealed that President Nixon was had a tape recording system in the Oval Office and recorded conversations.
Right. So that is the thing.
Yeah. So pretty much they were ignoring the fact that they...
So who knew about this?
12 men.
Just random
only some of the higher ups at the time in Nixon's reign.
Right. No, that's enough. Yeah, that's all I need to know.
That's pretty much.
And I would already say it's not the same, because my theory kind of does address that.
So like I know, like one argument is like that you're pointing to is that people do die for a lie, thinking that it's true. So
No.
Sorry, I'm
I
not
get
finished. But
they can.
They can.
Yeah.
But people don't die for a belief they know to be a lie.
Yeah.
So people die for a belief they know to be true, but they don't die a belief they know to be a lie, and that's one argument. Some people say it's just a poor argument, like it's just not strong.
I think it's strong. I think it's definitely strong. So one thing, like what you said, absolutely, like because most people do that, but is always there.
Go ahead.
But it's not all the time. It's you can't. This is pretty much analyzing human psychology.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't work for everyone.
No.
First of all, secondly, it's not the same situation, which I will explain in a bit. So my theory is, this is gonna be a little bit far-fetched in some points. They're gonna be like, what? That's stupid.
Go ahead. I've still got more to say. So you go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. If you still have more to say about that, you can continue. Yeah.
Well, I guess I do. So one reason why it's so significant as well is because you've got people who saw the resurrection of Jesus. So you've got eyewitnesses. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So there might be debates later on like, why don't every Christian do this when they get persecuted? But the main thing is that they were the eyewitnesses. Now, not only that, but there were several rebellions within Jerusalem or the Jews against the Romans prior to this. Every time when there was a rebellion and they were crushed and the leader was killed or imprisoned, they would do one of two things. The rebellion would stop altogether, or they would latch onto a new leader, and then the cycle would repeat. Right. They would have another uprising and it would stop or catch another. When they did this with Jesus, they didn't fall, nor did they choose a new person. They stayed on to the fact that Jesus was still their leader, that he had resurrected, and that he was still the main guy. Yeah. In most other cases, they'd choose someone else who became a leader. So one theory could be, Jesus' half-brother James, he was a significant figure, yes, but he never claimed to be the reason for it all. He still pointed towards Jesus having been resurrected and the reason why it's such a dramatic event. And he was also brutally, stoned for his belief. And he was actually a skeptic himself.
Did James witness it? I don't think he did.
He witnessed the resurrection.
He did.
Yeah. Yeah, so he witnessed the resurrection. He was someone who, so he was one of the half-brothers of Jesus, and he himself was a skeptic of Jesus.
James and Paul are the tough ones. Yeah.
And so Paul, he persecuted Christians. He went out of his way to look for Christians and kill them. There's this in Acts, the book of Acts, it talks about a stoning of Stephen. And Saul is holding the robes of the people doing the stoning. Yeah. So he's witnessing it. And then on his conversion, he was on the road to Damascus to find Christians to persecute. So he purposefully went out of his way to put in prison Christians and to kill them. Right. He allowed the deaths of Christians. That's probably more what he did. He probably wouldn't have done it firsthand, I'm sure. But he definitely gave sentences out for the death. And he admits this. He admits in his letters that he went out of his way and purposefully wanted to find and persecute Christians. And so his sudden transformation to suddenly be like, no, I've seen the risen Jesus, that he is Lord and Savior and he is God. That's another thing that's crazy.
Like I said, that's one of the points that is like you can like that can single-handedly win the case of Christ. That is when that Christianity even like started becoming a big. I mean, I can't say that, but I would say it's a very strong point. Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I guess if you want to talk about the deaths, I know some people don't think this is strong, but you've got beaten to death. Several of them were crucified, including Peter, who was crucified upside down. You've got Saul, he was executed by Nero. Some of them we don't have evidence for. It's more traditional. Some are very not heavily proven that they were died by this way, but it's more historical evidence that they all died some way. How is debated, but yeah, so that's a bit nuts. That
is.
They've gone through.
No, absolutely, they're very, very brave people.
I think the significant thing is that they were eyewitnesses of Jesus.
So have you just said the accounts of the eyewitnesses? Aren't some non-eyewitnesses also martyred?
Definitely, a lot. That's another thing. So there were lots of other people that I guess you could argue martyred and died, but lots of people died for their beliefs back then. Yeah. Like you argue, like Saul, he did it. He just killed people because they believed. Yeah. So it is interesting, that bit.
No, it definitely is. I have something to say about it.
That video was funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very good video. You know, one thing though, I don't know if Christians should really be making videos like that, because you guys claim some crazy stuff too, man.
We do.
Exactly.
Resurrection.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny though. Still, okay, fine. I still find it funny, even if it was my idea that they were making fun of. Yeah, that's a really funny video.
I find it funny.
I find it's hilarious.
Because another thing that they had nothing to gain from it.
Yeah, well, you haven't let me do my theory yet. You gotta listen to my theory.
Sure.
You gotta.
Okay, I'll listen to your theory, and then I'll say something.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so this theory is I will have to say it's a working theory.
Yeah.
There's a lot of holes in it. A lot of what do you call it? Things that haven't worked out yet. A lot of
Gotcha.
things that are, I'm kind of really reaching, because I'm just trying to find whatever theory I can possible that doesn't involve the resurrection. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
fit whatever I can to the other thing, because I'm like, there's got to be something else that's, good explanation.
That's fair.
And I think that's actually not a bad way to look at it. Okay, so first one is, so Mary wanted to be the mother of the Messiah.
Yeah.
She she lied about being a virgin.
Well, she definitely could have. She definitely could.
So then, and then Jesus was born, and then as Jesus was brought up and stuff, he was heavily influenced by this idea that either he should be the Messiah or he saw himself as one.
Yeah.
And then he obviously I'm pretty sure he had access to Old Testaments and the prophecies and stuff like that at the time.
He definitely did.
Exactly. So and then because Jesus was a very smart man, I'll give him one thing. For me, in this theory, he's a very, very forward-thinking, very smart, very progressive man, right? Who's still got the best of humanity in heart. He sees all the sin around him. He sees all the issues, and he's like, "No, I can't deal with this."
Yeah.
Right. And he knows that the only true way is to, if the Messiah shows them the way, right? So Jesus knows he's a very smart man, very, very smart man. So this part I don't really like, where he tries to fulfill the prophecies. I'm not too happy with that part of the theory.
That's fair, but it is something to point out. I think,
Yeah.
even in my church group, we were wondering, even in the Bible, there's he definitely does some things to fulfill prophecies. He goes into a town, I think it was Bethlehem, and he sends someone away and says, "Look, there's going to be a donkey, a colt, a young donkey, in this position from someone.
Yeah.
Tell them I need it."
Yeah.
And it was fulfilled a prophecy. So,
exactly.
When you read it like that, it was
and
how biased was his decisions.
Yeah. Exactly. So he was trying to be that person that could convince the people to lead them down the right path. So he was the OG influencer. That's what I'm trying to say. He's gaining a following. He's doing these miracles that could potentially be either things that people he paid off, or things like he put glasses on, like a little bit of science on people that didn't understand science back then. So they understood, they thought of it as like magic or whatever, miracles. And obviously Jesus isn't the only person who's claimed to have done miracles in history. There's a lot of other people who've claimed stuff like that.
Right.
And most of them have been tricks and stuff. So I'm not saying, but the difference between Jesus and other people was Jesus was doing it for a good purpose, for example. And then, so when he gets these followers, obviously he started getting a massive following, and then he got a very, close followers and all that. And now it can be variable, so it could have the plan could have been hatched before his death or after.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus, I'm pretty sure he was already claiming that he was he was the Messiah or the Son of God before he died, or something like that.
Correct. He definitely did.
He definitely did. Yeah.
No,
which actually proved
that was the whole point why
which
he
makes
died.
my theory stronger as well, because he claims that before he dies, and then so now, either before or after, the followers are fully committed to Jesus's thing to save the world, right? So we definitely need to get people a reason to live, to believe in God, so they don't commit any sins, right? And the followers believe this. They love it. They're not too sure about, Jesus calling himself. Some of them might have believed it, some of them might have known the bigger picture. So then when he dies, now the followers they have a purpose. They understand that they've been previous people in the past, leaders, who, like you said, that when they die, people either find a new person or nothing happens. So they're like, okay, how do we bring him back? So they're like, how do we get his influence back? And how do we prove that he is the Messiah or God? And this could have been orchestrated by Jesus, because if you're talking about a theory where he's been doing all these prophecies and from the past in order to convince people, he could have told his, or really, and these people are almost close to being fanatics, the followers, they literally died for their beliefs.
You're right.
And they would have died for this stuff. So they are a lot different than people who are today. People today are very selfish. You're talking about people in the Nixon administration compared to apostles back in the day who had insane faith and belief in people they followed. You cannot make that comparison, first of all, because these guys are selfish politicians. You cannot make the same comparison. I'm sorry, you just can't. And it's not the same situation. This is exactly why I don't like comparisons being made, because the parameters are completely different. And
I can see that.
You see exactly what I'm saying, right? And those are amazing, great people. Like, I've seen people who have dedicated their life to a single thing. Not a lot of those people actually live nowadays. In modern society, do you think a lot of people live for other people or for stuff that they believe in, or are they more selfish?
I would say most people tend to be more on the selfish side of things and not for others.
Exactly. And apostles specifically are people that have thrown everything away. They don't want fame. They don't want fortune. They live for that faith. They live for that belief in something. I don't know, whatever they believe in. So they're not to be taken the same as normal people. So they will take their faith a lot more, so they'll take a lot more punishment, or they're likely to take more punishment than normal people before they give up, so they knew that the purpose that Jesus, it was amazingly good purpose. Like, you are doing it for the betterment of the world and for people everywhere. And that is a purpose that I would, give a decent amount for. I wouldn't go as far as them, because I'm a lot more selfish than these apostles. But those guys, I've told you, how apostles are different from normal people. And on top of that, they've had a purpose that they could potentially believe in. But that one thing they were missing is that their leader wasn't coming back from the dead. So why those 3 days, Maybe they needed 3 days to, think about it. Oh, bro, why is he not coming back? Oh, shit. We should probably get it done. Get Mary Magdalene together, and and the level disciples and stuff. And there's a couple. So I don't know when before or what specific subset of disciples did this. Some of them, there might have been a very small group who was actually in on it from the start. Doesn't matter, but they fully believed that this is the only way to save humanity. Right. And if they believe that, I'm telling you right now, if they believe that this is the only way to proclaim that our leader is that risen Christ and he is the Son of God, that's the only way we can save humanity. If they believe that, if the disciples believed that, they didn't need to know if Jesus actually came back to life. If they really believed they could save humanity, they could. If they proclaimed that their leader was the Son of God, I can say with a decent amount of confidence that they would be willing to die for that, no matter what torture they went through. And I'm not saying all of the people knew this. It would be a subset of people who actually knew this theory, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So, and then when you talk about, especially Paul's accounts, when he said he appeared to 500 people at once, now that one I really, really don't like. Because Paul is the only one who mentioned that.
That's true.
And the 500 number seems very fake to me, and yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit. It's a lot of people have debated over that one. Some people have said it's like a throwaway one. Some people no. Right. But Paul is a very trustworthy guy. You can't just throw away whatever he says. And for me, the lack of evidence actually is more strong here. Lack of evidence or the lack of testament. So you have enough people, you have a bunch of people saying that they actually saw it, a bunch of people believing it. What about the people that didn't? What about
see it?
if our man really came back to life?
Yeah.
There should have been more. There was one or two enemies. James, I don't know if James was really an enemy. There was one main enemy.
He was a skeptic.
Skeptic, exactly. Yeah. And Paul was the one main enemy. And why was there only one enemy? It's almost like they had to find one enemy to convince the rest of the people, because that alone is very strong for me. And I'm like, how the hell? Like that alone, I'm like, holy shit, that's insane. You know, that's a very, very, very strong point. But if you look at it in a way, it's almost like a manipulated strength. So including the 500 people.
Yeah.
For me, the big problem is the 500 people and the enemy of Christ. So you say it's a strength, but I'm saying it's actually a weakness, because there's only one of it. And the lack of testimonies is actually what I'm talking about. There should have been a lot more people talking about this, a lot more people going crazy. And the reason why Jesus was talked about a lot more than Tiberius at the time was because at the time they were expecting the Messiah. So there would be a lot of talk about this man who claimed to be God anyway, and he was fulfilling prophecies and doing all these things. Why wouldn't they talk about him? But after his death, kind of went a little bit quiet, and you only hear about the disciples talking about it. And obviously you have a couple of other accounts, I think Roman Tibascus, I can't forget his name.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
But those have also, been like, they could have been added later on, or they were just secondhand accounts. How they didn't see anything. They could have heard it from the early Christian community. And that early Christian community, they didn't hear it. They didn't all see it themselves. They heard it from very specific people who saw it.
They did.
So when you look at all of that, there are some holes, but I feel like that has some credibility, that theory.
It's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like maybe they all got into it and be like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah, like those 11 dudes. Like, you know what? I'm not kidding you. I saw that video.
Yeah.
And that actually helped my theory.
Really?
Because before that, I was like, what kind of subset of people would it be? And then they showed that, and I was like, yeah, it could be those 11 dudes. Yeah, you never know. Like, the point is that we don't know what happened. Simple as that. We have accounts from people who say they know what happened. And
yes.
And this we don't even need to get to the 6,000 manuscripts, because like once you've written down the first lie and then it was copied, then it doesn't matter the lies and everything,
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the 500. So I think from understanding the reasoning for mentioning them. So in that passage,
Paul was just like, he was writing and he was like, I don't know if people will believe this. I was like, hey, you appeared before 500 people. Let's go.
Well, the reason why he mentions that is that he was writing to it in the time frame that people would have still been alive. So he was more or less saying,
I know, I saw that, and
5 people.
There's still people alive. You cannot talk to them or something like that.
If you doubt
I've seen
you
that.
can go and talk to them.
Yeah, I know that bit, but again, it's just people.
Did you know who the Messiah? So Jesus wasn't the only one actually claiming to be the Messiah.
Maybe there were.
There were definitely more people.
Yeah, but then Jesus was the only one who had a plan.
Like, so with that theory, how would you explain the rapid rise of Christianity with that?
Yeah, that is another one, but it would be pretty much spreading the same way. Like, I don't know what you mean. So I would say it's even more rapid if you actually come up with it, because you want to spread it as quickly as possible. Why wouldn't it be? So you have, like I said, you have this initial bunch of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as soon as you get to that second line of people who don't know the truth, and you just tell them to spread it on, like there's nothing stopping you,
Pyramid scheme.
Yeah, pyramid. Like, you said it.
like one interesting thing about that is you look about why people lie. Have you heard of cold case Christianity?
No.
I can't remember his name, but anyway, it's a guy who, lots of people have looked into Christianity from their. Lots of people have looked at Christianity through the perspective of their jobs and used their job and their job's way of thinking to apply and to look at the evidence for it. So this guy was a detective, and he looked into it, and one thing he pointed out was when people lie, and if they're wanting to hide that lie, the reason why they've lied is 90% of the lies or more is from either money, power, or lust. Saul was none of those.
Yeah, I've seen that.
He had power. He had probably enough money.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do have a small theory for that. It's not perfect, but I would say is guilt and repentance in that case.
Repentance against the Christians that he's killed?
Pretty much, yeah, guilt for what he's done.
Right.
Because I've definitely seen that. That's definitely a thing. So people with power, with money, later on in life, they throw that all away to become more, quiet life. And to pretty much against the sins. So the catalyst is the importance there. Why did he suddenly do that? Because it's not a new thing. People do that for bad things they've done. It's not for power, no, but that catalyst is the important thing. I don't know what specifically did that, because for me it's very hard to believe that. Obviously, they've said like he saw a vision of Jesus, but I don't like the whole vision theory. Like he didn't.
He claims he saw the resurrected Jesus.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying the arguments against. I'm saying the arguments against it.
Right.
So I'm like obviously he says that he's seen the resurrected Jesus, but the atheist would claim that no, he saw a vision.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, nah, that doesn't really make sense. I don't fully believe in that. Like, because first of all, if you need to see a vision, you need to be a believer of it. Like if you're a non-believer of it, it's hard to see a vision of Jesus if he isn't real. So. Or it could have been a combination of he was told about Jesus' resurrection and then he felt guilt, but it seemed it's too far-fetched. I'll give you that. So a couple of things that I haven't solved. So in my theory, we'll come to it. So my theory is weak on fulfilling prophecies, and my theory is weak on the conversion of the enemies. But everything else, I think it does explain quite well. Like I said, my theory is weak on the prophecy side and Paul's side, right? The two ends of it. So the prophecies for me, are there actually? Could it have been that there were a lot more prophecies that existed, like 3,000, 4,000, and there were only 300 that were cherry picked that Jesus Christ fulfilled? There were a lot of prophecies lost in the old manuscripts.
Well, there definitely could be. And I'm not 100% sure, but there might be prophecies that he didn't fulfill. I don't know.
So then for me, it's the very interesting thing is the prophecies he didn't fulfill, because as soon as there are prophecies that he didn't fulfill, that is bad. That is instantly bad.
I'm trying to find something.
Yeah, and then you have the case of whether he did purposely fulfill them or not.
And he like
my man had a parchment of all the 300 prophecies. And he's like, how do I fill this? He's like OG scavenger hunt, It's like, he gets the last one. He's like, crucifixion, shit. I don't like that.
Yeah, that's right.
See, that's a little bit obviously making fun of it, but it could have been a version of that. Now, see, I know that you've been brought up with Christianity, and the case for Christ especially is quite strong. I understand that. I really understand that. But you have to admit that there are, first of all, like the holes that I pointed out before, with the before, the problems with Christianity part. In the first thing I have, the stuff that you can't fully explain.
No, I can't explain the differences in the homo
Exactly.
genoids, and I can't explain dinosaurs.
Yeah.
But I can sort of explain the testimony bit. So, the testimony, you think that's wrong, but if we were to go to a court case, they rely on testimony.
I know. I've seen this argument before,
Yeah.
but it's. I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying testimonies are, what do you call it, not accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying the nature of what they claim. So in a normal court case, no one's saying people came back from the dead, or Dracula came and killed you, or the devil killed me. Are they saying any of those things? No, they don't. But what you're saying is different. I keep telling you that the level of evidence is required is a lot more. It's not the same. Comparisons are made very poorly in many debates, very many different places. Even that Watergate thing, I think it's just silly. You can't compare those two things. I can understand a little bit, like you can maybe do human psychology comparison, but people really need to understand parameters are not the same. You cannot compare two completely different situations. You just can't. It's as soon as someone says something and it's like, I'm like, oh, shut up, shut up. You're gonna get it wrong. Just shut up.
I understand your point of view with that, like how
Yeah.
you want it to be compared to something on the same level.
But
You don't want to compare
I
butterflies to
see
dragons.
that you're saying my point of view, but wouldn't you say that I have a decent standing for that? So, for example, very much that Watergate thing that you said.
Yeah.
Do you really believe those two situations are similar?
With the amount of
First thing is the lie itself, right? We're comparing. So, think about the lie that I'm
for
saying.
the gain that people can get, I think they're similar.
For the
So you're
gain.
talking about people controlling power and having power, and you're also, but then they're different again. Like all the apostles weren't saying this for power. They were saying they were promoting. Jesus told them, go throughout every corner of the world and make disciples.
Yeah.
So they were following his command.
Yes.
So they weren't doing it because they necessarily wanted to. Well, they probably did turn into that because of the love they had for him. They probably like, oh, this is the best what we can do for him.
Yeah.
But they had nothing else to gain from it. It's for other people's benefit. It wasn't for their own.
I don't know, because what is their purpose in life at that point?
I would say they found it to share the gospel.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
Exactly. That would be their purpose in life.
Yeah.
So if more people read about it, would they feel good? Or if more people, converted, or more people knew about it, would they feel good?
I'm sure they would have.
That's what I mean. So their gain at that point doesn't. So like I'm saying, an apostle or a person, a devotee like that, they don't have the same gain than that a normal politician would have. A politician is all about money, all about power, all about you can't. That's exactly what I'm saying. You can't make that same comparison on an apostle because they're not doing it for the same reasons. They're doing it for and I mentioned this before. They're doing it for literally these guys live for their faith, or they devote their lives to something.
And is that because they believe it to be true?
They believe, so I told you this, so it's for the greater good. They believe it's for the greater good, and that's what I'm saying. So little white lie for the greater good, that's my point. And they believe the greater good is so important. I literally just said this, and they believe that spreading these teachings of Jesus is amazing. So they're devoted to this belief.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and do you really think that's the same as some politicians who are trying to cover up, not going to jail for some kind of corrupt scheme that they're trying to get for money and power? Are you saying that's the same?
No, you didn't need to look into a case where it's more selfless act, like instead of
exactly
for power.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying you could potentially find a different thing you can compare to in real life that people have done for belief and devotion.
No, yeah. I think it's important people question. Like, there's nothing, and like, I think one thing that I've learned from this
Yeah.
is that it's normal to have doubts.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone throughout that had doubts.
Yeah.
Questioning
Yeah.
is normal and should be done.
Yes.
So I think lots of things should be questioned. Like I've been saying I've been wanting to read the Quran. I haven't yet, but I'm wanting to. Because I'm wanting to see their point of view.
Yeah.
One reason why I want to read the Quran is because I believe that if there is a God, and if he's been the creator, then surely and if he wants to have, have good intentions with us, then surely he's communicated with us in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the 5 religions, Christianity, Islam, Hindu, Buddhism,
Yeah.
with that assumption, one of those should be true. All of them, or whatever theory you want. So
I have a theory.
you're right.
I have a
What I'm
theory
trying
for
to say
that,
is-
but go ahead.
what I'm trying to say is that you're right. Some Christians don't. They think that's the word and that's it, and they're quite stubborn with that.
Yeah.
But I'm personally trying to be open-minded and look at everything and actually understand, hey, why do they have that point of view?
Yeah.
And why has the traditional Christian view disagreed with it?
Yeah.
So I haven't fully read the Quran, but it's interesting. Like there's, you can always pinpoint little things and be like, that's interesting. That's not right.
It's when you talk about the creation of theistic stuff or belief in God,
Yeah.
it's actually very interesting. And when I think about that as well, again, it kind of removes my or creates doubt in specific religions because humans have always needed to. Well, we've pretty much given importance to anything we haven't understood, absolutely, and we've had a long history of creating a godlike figure every time in different civilizations, right? And initially, it was more polytheistic. So
Yes. Yeah.
you do this for the sun, you do for the fire, you do fire, you do water, whatever, a bunch of different things. And that made sense because at the time they were just, they were worshiping the elements because they didn't understand what it was. They didn't understand these elements that could destroy their, lives and civilizations very easily.
Yeah, I see what I mean.
So you're pretty much praying to an unknown force at that point. And obviously Christians know that polytheistic is bullshit. You know that.
I do.
Yes, you do know that. And then the single God, the monotheistic God, actually only it doesn't show up too much in history,
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
So Judaism, obviously, Christianity, and Islam all have it, but they're all from the same source.
Correct.
From the same source. So, but the point is that people have always tried to understand forces of nature, and they've given the name God to it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, why can your religion not have done the same thing?
It definitely could have. But we believe there have been people who have been prophets who have spoken for God or on behalf of God. So that's Moses, Elijah, there's Elijah, and then there's someone with the same name, and then Jesus. And those are, I guess you could say, arguably the main ones. And funny enough, there's more prophets, or a lot more, but those 4 are the main ones where miracles have happened around.
Yeah.
Mainly Moses and Jesus.
Yeah.
And so because of that, that's why you've gotten the Judaism, Christian, and Islam heavily believing in Moses because he performed those to convince people.
Yeah.
And those miracles to help convince. And then that's why you also have Christianity and a little bit of Islam also believing in Jesus as a prophet for the Lord. I think the bit for me is that it's like, why do we have religion? Is it to explain, or is it so we, I don't know, what is the point of religion? That's where I think that starts getting
Well,
onto,
the point of religion is just to keep people in line.
That's what some people think.
There's some people, a lot of people think that. Anthropology thinks that.
To keep people aligned, do you mean to conform to government standards, or
Not government standards, but having a god. Yeah. So it's a human, like any primates or things we've. So you have groups of primates, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
10 to 100. The bigger the group you need to have, the banding together, you need a proportionately more stronger leader.
Right.
So you
Yes.
can never
Yes.
have a human being, rule over, what do you call it, millions of people.
Right.
You can have a ruler. A ruler is a fictional entity, absolutely. But if you don't give him a position and something that goes behind it, it's just a dude like Jeremiah. Let's all follow him. No, it's eventually people will break away and people won't believe in his power. Oh, it's just a dude. He's getting old. I don't care. And this is how human beings have created groups of people in the past. And when you come up, fictional entities have been very strong at creating large groups of people, like
Yeah.
kingdoms and rulers and nations. Those are all fictional entities, and they really keep people in line. And the other one is religion. The understanding, what do you call it? The fear of nature's power, about the unknown force that created us or why we came to Earth. What about all these catastrophic events that come and destroy us? We better pray, otherwise they'll kill us.
So what about now then in the modern day? Why do we need religion?
We
do you
don't.
think?
We don't need religion now. That's my whole point. So at this point, so religion was very useful in the past.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like at this point, I never said religion was needed.
Right. No, yeah.
So one thing is good that Christianity, where it's come to, actually I really do like. Christianity has also done a lot of good for the world. I won't lie. I won't deny any of that. It's also where it's come to is most of the people aren't aggressive towards other religions anymore. It's not like the Crusades or anything.
That's a different topic.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we don't need to talk
yeah.
about that. I'm just saying that people, religious people, fought each other.
No, they
back in the
have.
time.
They have definitely.
Yeah.
And
So it's not.
arguably
It's,
still do.
it's yeah, more locally, and so when you look at that, Christians are actually they live good lives. Make sure by getting married to one person, make sure that everyone is living a good. So I guess in that way, Christianity is still doing a great job, amazing job. But in terms of needing a religion, that comes back to the purpose of life.
That's exactly why I think people like. One of the key reasons is we have religion.
Yeah,
is
but
the meaning of
that's
life.
if you think about why humans have been created, and this is all about your philosophy now.
Definitely.
It's about your philosophy and perspective. So if you believe that humans have no value, Christianity believes that humans have value.
Correct.
And as soon as you believe that, having a purpose for life becomes very important. Different things become important. If you don't believe in that, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can kill people, do whatever. The thing that keeps us together, though, is explained by evolutionary instinct. Obviously, if you're in groups of people and you behave badly, you're probably going to get kicked out of the pack.
But wouldn't you say that evolution has pointed towards a survival of the fittest attitude? So should therefore be more selfish? Like the dominating aspect of a leader, like when you look into animal groups, it's always the strongest. You can see that on farms. All the bossier cows are the most well-fed. The longest, they have I presume they live longer because they're more well-fed.
Yeah, but what is it?
So like if it was just evolution, I would have thought that humans would have been more selfish.
No, because you can also, one way to survive is also being part of the pack. You don't have to always be the fittest guy.
Yeah, no, I see what I mean.
Survival of the fittest doesn't mean always being the fittest. It's about sucking up to the fittest. No, I'm being serious.
You are right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It is about that as well.
Yeah.
Because I think definitely it's more for the purpose of life, religion.
Yeah.
Strongly.
Absolutely. Because I think my technical terminology, or the what I fall under, is called absurdism or something like that.
Okay.
I think it's that I don't I don't think there's any purpose in life, but I will still live my life to the fullest, kind of thing.
Right.
So it's different from a nihilist kind of thing. So you take it in a negative way, right?
Okay.
That takes it in a negative way, but I take it in a positive way. I don't need to know if there's a purpose, but I'll still live my life, in the best way I can.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you know what the best way is?
oh, sorry, there is technically. So if we get into this, and my philosophies, there is no right and wrong. There's no technically best way. Okay, fine. The way that I like, then.
Yeah.
That's what I mean to say. So there's no. I would say there's no right and wrong.
Right.
Absolutely. That's philosophical wise.
Yeah.
But over time, humans have liked some experiences more than others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so stuff that makes you feel good, stuff that makes you feel bad.
I see what you're saying.
And you could easily put a bunch of rules to whatever makes you feel good and be like, okay, you only do things that make you feel good and make you feel not guilty.
Definitely. And I guess if you're talking about the survival of the fittest, the ones who realised that if they were the fittest, they could enforce it on everyone else.
Yeah.
I see that you're engulfed with understanding everything, especially with the creation side of it. I think that's a tertiary side, problem when you're talking about religion. It's not even the primary, not even the secondary. Like how it was done.
But I understand
For
that.
any religion, religion, even Hindu, Buddhism.
It's not just the inside of the book, right? So like I said, I see how Christianity fits as a religion in human society. I see how it was created.
Mm-hmm.
I see why it was created. I see why it needed to be there. So when you look at an outside perspective, in the way I was saying, like how God and religions were created, and you talk about that, I completely understand the creation for religion, right? Why it was created.
Mm-hmm.
So I already have a belief or a strong understanding that I think is true of why religions even exist.
No, definitely. Even from that aspect, yeah.
And then I get into Christianity itself, right? But this is before I even get into Christianity. There's so many things I find wrong with Christianity. You know what I'm saying? Before we get into Christianity, I have so many problems with religion itself.
Right.
And then when we get into the specific part of Christianity, then I have a lot of problems with the initial Genesis part and stuff. Probably because that's any time you claim something insane. That's it. I don't mind the genealogies and then the father and the son and the father and the son and whatever. That's all fine. But people do have. Again, this is from my understanding that people do. So it's very simple. I take the base facts. People can lie.
Mm-hmm.
People can manipulate things. People can exaggerate stories. People can do a lot of different things. So my theory is based on a lot of facts.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I've said, every time I say a theory, it's based on motivation. So if Mary wanted to, wanted the son of Messiah, her son to be, it's based on greed, it's based on motivation, right? And then Jesus wanting to do that is based on strategies, based on planning, and people can do that. People can do it. So everything I'm saying is based on fact. But obviously, I'm fighting something supernatural, which is not based on the fact that you can confirm at the moment.
No.
Yeah. So everything that I can confirm with now, or even my understanding going back many different years about how God was created, how religions were created, and I think that's pretty much the widest perspective you can have, really. I genuinely don't think you can go wider than that, and I still will be open to fully understanding the theory of a case for Christ, but I genuinely cannot think you can go wider than that to understanding a topic.
Yeah, I think I think I hear you.
Yeah.
They're saying.
I want you to try getting a wider perspective for 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done. 1 second gone.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Maybe you didn't truly get it. Well, I don't know. I genuinely wouldn't know. Like, I don't fully understand the what do you call it? The hold of Christianity on you, you know. And I'm not telling you to let it go. I'm not telling you to let it go.
I think part of it is I guess part of that is the death side.
The death side. Yeah.
Death.
Yeah.
Oh, death. Sorry.
Yeah, death. Yeah.
Yeah. Is the belief of what happens when we die. That's what's holding me.
Mm.
Yeah, because
Look,
so theoretically, if I could live forever in heaven, forever, infinite, forever, my life on earth is a speck compared to what infinity is.
Yeah.
So why not for the 70 to 100 years I'm here on earth, if I am that lucky, why not I have that faith in something that can give me eternity when it's such a speck in the long scheme of things? That's why I hold on to it.
You know, I completely understand that perspective. And you know what I was thinking? I was like, just in case there was a heaven.
Well, that's right.
No, it would be great if I believed in Jesus. If I don't believe in Jesus, if Jesus wasn't real, nothing would happen. If I believe in Jesus, I go to heaven.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that,
Absolutely.
as long as you have 100% faith in Jesus.
Absolutely.
I don't.
I can definitely resonate with that.
Yeah.
I can definitely resonate with that. I thought about that a couple of times. Why the hell am I fighting so much?
This is why I'd say I'm a God-fearing man.
Yeah.
Because I fear that.
Fear that, yeah.
So
I can see that.
I would say, I definitely fear God.
Yeah.
And I fear that I could, there's a chance that if I am right in the belief that I could go to hell.
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
Oh, absolutely. I understand that, man. Yeah. I genuinely, even now or even before, I've thought that, I just bloody believe in Jesus already. It's not, if you don't, you might go to hell,
this
bro.
is what I'm saying about the creation thing. I think that's not even a primary or secondary issue, because it doesn't affect
I understand that. So pretty much that belief in Jesus will take you to heaven.
Correct.
That is the most important part.
Correct.
Yeah. I completely understand that.
Obviously the overarching belief is that God is the creator.
Yeah.
The details, I would argue, others might, I don't know.
Yeah.
But personally, I would argue the details of how is not important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would definitely argue that for them to believe in something like that is definitely good.
And I understand that. Yeah.
So my philosophy is that it doesn't matter what happens to humans. So if we don't exist or if we exist or whatever, but if you do choose to say that, I do want to work towards the survival of the humans race, right? Then, so in terms of, it's not even right and wrong. What's the right strategy to do that? You want to keep all the humans working together and not killing themselves, working as efficiently as possible. If you say that, then, it would be good to give them a purpose to work towards. If they all want to kill themselves and be depressed half the time or not want to, work, then it's not going to help anything.
So that would require people to get together and be like, hey, we want our species to survive as long as possible.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that's what I mean. That's where Christianity can come into play, is that gives them that hope, gives them that thing that, you know, if we do really well, then you know, we can go to heaven or whatever, you know. Maybe you just add a new addendum or like a amendment in the Bible saying that Jesus wants you to believe in him and also work towards the survival of humans. Just add that in. No one will know.
Well, that is sort of what it's about. Like, well, one thing they say it's a.
mean,
Well,
that's
one thing
essentially, yeah.
has said is that man, with the Bible, man isn't reaching out for God. It's God reaching out to man. That's what the Bible's about. It's not us reaching for God. You can see that in the Old Testament with Israel just turning their back to God and doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
And God's like, nope, that's not how you do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Man, he really got mad when you guys built that Tower of Babel, dude. God damn.
He did.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done that.
No.
He confused your language. I love that verse. He confused your language and sent them all apart. Okay. Confused the language? Nice. I love that. That is a good explanation of how different languages came about. Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, here we go. I opened it to that exact page. Because this is where the Lord confused the people with different languages.
Yeah. Just in 1 second. Here, you can speak Hindi, you can speak Chinese. Let's go. So, in terms of arguing and getting to a point, I think most people need to, you know, let go of, you know, what they need to believe in life and just be like, have a bit of faith sometimes. I completely understand that. That is, I can see a lot of atheists like, no, I cannot believe that. I can still see a lot of inconsistencies with a lot of things that, you know, even from that passage, from that Tower of Babel thing. But I'm like, so what's wrong with having a little bit of faith? You know?
Definitely, yeah.
There's no reason living your life with so much, you know, what do you call it, conflict with everyone.
No.
I don't believe you.
No.
What you saying, you piece of shit. You're so dumb. You so dumb. No, God changed my language. No. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, but I think that's a good conclusion, man. My sister is a very good number 4 prostitute in Kazakhstan. Yes, we are very proud. Jesus. Yeah, I've got an amazing theory about resurrection. So what they did, they found a doppelganger called Jesus.
Jesus.
Mexican. That's why he didn't really say much. Do you know what you're doing? No. They were like, why are you talking weird, man?
Well, that's what Islam believes. They believe that.
They believe he was a Mexican.
They believe that.
Whoa! Holy shit! They knew it all along. Yeah.